The cover page of One Piece chapter 1092 features Jinbei swimming with the help of some really affectionate suckerfish. We open up with a flashback of the day before in the Holy Land of Mary Joa. Kuma had successfully climbed his way up and was wreaking havoc. The guards desperately tried to put a stop to it. They slung chains around his neck, but he was still too much for them to handle. This might have actually worked out for them if they had used Sea Stone instead. Kuma may be a destructive cyborg, but he's also a Devil Fruit user. If Devil Fruit rules apply to the Seraphim, there's no reason it wouldn't be the same for the original Pacifista. Kuma was in really rough shape. It was clear to them that he was trying to go somewhere. Kuma ended up using Ursa's shock, devastating a large area around him. The exhausted Machine Man was then faced by a new figure. The man asked what Kuma was doing, wondering if the former warlord was here to pick up where the Revolutionary Army left off. Sabo and the other rebels recently caused a lot of trouble here despite the intervention of 2 admirals. So now, to deal with this unprecedented destruction, was the Fleet Admiral himself. One of the guards recognized the Marine, but ended up being used as a footrest by one of the Celestial Dragons. The angry Celestial scolded the guard for failing. He then complained to Akainu that when he ordered lobster for dinner the night before, he was told that it was out of stock. This sort of thing had never happened before. The rulers of the world blamed him for letting their food supply dwindle like this. But even worse than that, he had allowed someone to hurt them. They demanded that he destroy Kuma immediately. Akainu looked at Kuma grimly. If they couldn't control him, this was the end of the line. They couldn't possibly allow such a dangerous man to go buck wild like this. Akainu began turning an arm into lava. Kuma's personality was supposed to have been totally erased, so looking at his eagerness to proceed forward, Akainu wondered where could such a creature be going. With no hesitation at all, the Fleet Admiral went for a headshot with Hellhound. He actually managed to get a piece of it, which revealed to Akainu that the monster still had blood running through his veins. Speaking of which, Kuma began to run, but Akainu was not done with him yet. He also managed to claim one of the cyborg's legs with his lava. Then Kuma rushed away using his Devil Fruit, which would be impossible for the Fleet Admiral to catch up to. Akainu thought back to when he last spoke with Kuma's daughter Bonnie. He told her it didn't matter how much he complained. Her father's mind would never return, that he had volunteered himself to be made into a total weapon. With tears in her eyes, Bonnie called the Marine a liar since her dad would never abandon her. In the present, the Celestial Dragons were not happy with Akainu for letting Kuma escape. The Fleet Admiral ignored them and simply wondered where Kuma could possibly be going. Kuma had lost his will, his mind, and everything else. As far as Akainu was concerned, Kuma was just a puppet now. The question is, who's pulling the strings these days? Over on Egghead Island, the Marines were on the verge of completely destroying the weaponized sea beasts. Thankfully for them, the Pacifista squad that was rerouted by Kizaru managed to finish the job with their lasers. The Marines had officially made landfall on the island of the future. They were in the Fabrio Stratum and were planning to further occupy the rest of the island. They'd also mentioned how Admiral Kizaru was ahead of them and had infiltrated the Labo Stratum. Up above, Luffy was hitting into the Marine from many angles with Gear 4th Snake Man. This alone was enough for the Admiral to recognize his opponent's strength. Without a shadow of a doubt, this really was a man who had taken down Kaido. So yeah, the Luffy slander has to stop now because Kizaru, an admiral, is recognizing Luffy to be a powerhouse now. He recognizes Luffy's toughness, which is very different from his impression of the pirate in the past. But right now, he wondered why a pirate like Luffy would want to protect Vegapunk. Now, Luffy does look a little fatigued here, but he was questioning what Kizaru's intentions were too. As he rushed in for another barrage, he asked Kizaru why he wanted to kill the old man. The Admiral questioned the word want before zipping away in the form of light. Now, Kizaru getting away from Luffy like this is a testament to just how capable Rayleigh really is. Back on Sabaody, the Dark King didn't allow Kizaru to escape him for a single second. The Admiral tried the same thing back then and was almost cleaved apart. Luffy was already panting and began to wonder just how far away did Kizaru go. He was now a considerable distance away from the island as he prepared his next move. Admittedly, he didn't want to kill Vegapunk. After all, they've known each other for quite a long time. Kizaru began turning into light as he asked Luffy not to interfere. Kizaru surged forward, claiming that speed is power, and made his way back to the island. His approach was too fast to be totally guarded against, so Luffy was hurled away by a kick at the speed of light. The Vega Force 1 looked back to see what was happening. Kizaru appeared to be bothered by his own actions as he recalled Vegapunk's excitement towards creating the giant robot that mankind had always dreamed of. The robot was split in two when Luffy slammed into it. The Vega Force 1 had been destroyed, and Luffy crashed into the virtually impenetrable laser defense system. Franky cried out with concern for his captain. They all went flying along with the Sunny. Lilith desperately told Franky and Bonnie to run for their lives. After all, the Vega Force 1 was going to explode! Lilith was distraught. The Vega Force 1 was their dream robot. As a fellow inventor and robot enthusiast, Franky was just as upset, but also wondered if their ship was alright. Bonnie mentioned how Luffy was launched away. Kizaru then approached them. Taking a look at her, Kizaru realized how much taller Kuma's daughter had grown, which is a little funny considering Bonnie can change her age at will. Akainu saw her recently enough, so it's a bit of a surprise that Kizaru hasn't. Her conveniently managing to avoid him on Sabaody prevented this from happening sooner. There might be more to this, but it's hard to say for sure. Some fans think Bonnie is really just a kid, but I'm still waiting for more evidence. Kizaru let her know that he was here with orders to eliminate Vegapunk, and knowing that she wanted him dealt with too, Kizaru told her to just stay out of his way. But Bonnie refused. She was over the whole kill Vegapunk thing and had realized that she should be targeting someone else entirely, which is still a total mystery to us. We know that Kuma's memories changed her mind, but not the exact details just yet. Bonnie tried to hit the Admiral, but he easily evaded the attempt. Hopefully Bonnie has Haki because I'm not sure what she expected to accomplish otherwise. Kizaru brought his boot up to the back of Bonnie's head. He asked her not to make him hurt more old friends than he needed to for the mission. He then launched Bonnie away. Franky tried to warn her, but the attack was too fast, and she too was launched into the defense system. Not sure how she's gonna survive that. Franky decided to add a pointless attack of his own to the mix in the form of his radical beam. That's right, the laser technology he based off Vegapunk's laser technology that was based on Kizaru's lasers. Thankfully, Oda decided to spare him the embarrassment by having Kizaru leave for Vegapunk immediately. Realizing that Stella is in danger, Franky rushed to get in contact with Usopp in the control room. It's honestly a little weird that Kizaru didn't eliminate Lilith here. She's a Vegapunk too and is definitely on their hit list. Stella is of course the original, but a Vegapunk is a Vegapunk. What do you guys make of this? Over in the control room, Usopp received a desperate call and wondered if his friend was alright since they heard the explosion. The Vegapunks had finally cracked York's code. Stella was over the moon, Edison let out a big sigh of relief, and Atlas taunted her evil sister. York was not happy about this at all. I'm still wondering why she is the way she is. Why is she so horrible? I really don't mind that we sped past the details of York's defeat, but it's definitely added more questions to the pile. Stella let Franky know that they can disable the barrier now. He wondered if the Vega Force 1 had gotten their ship to the other side of the island yet. Franky tried to warn him about what really happened, but was interrupted by the man of the hour. Kizaru entered the room and told the doctor that his escape plan was a failure. He had personally ensured the robot's destruction, so there was no way they would be able to move the ship. Each of the Vegapunks immediately threw their arms up in shock. Usopp cried out in horror. Kizaru asked his old friend to understand. This was a really unpleasant mission for him, so he didn't want it to take any longer than it needed to. He was here to finish things immediately. But just then, another loud noise would be heard, along with Luffy's loud voice, followed by a fit of laughter. A giant-sized Gear 5 Luffy grabbed hold of the Admiral and caused everyone's eyes to jump from their sockets. Luffy mentioned how holding Kizaru burns, which we knew from his time on Sabaody. Kizaru's reaction to this was frantic. We have never seen him like this before. But as long as Luffy is holding him like this, there isn't much he can really do. The sound of Luffy's oversized heart beating was really loud. Like a kid with a toy, he scolded Kizaru for knocking him all the way down to the lower layer. Apparently, he had to cross the barrier 2 times and was afraid he might die. This is a virtually impenetrable defense system we're talking about. Having gone through it twice, Luffy really just ate whatever Kizaru could ever hope to throw at him. The capture of an admiral is big enough news on its own, but these guys weren't the only ones who could hear the drums of liberation. The sound was loud enough to reach the junkyard located in the Fabrio Stratum. And with that, the legendary Iron Giant has finally awoken. This thing went on a rampage 200 years ago and attacked the Holy Land just like Kuma did yesterday. And just like Kuma, the intentions of the creature remain unknown. The implications here are insane and deserve a video of their own, so if you want to see that, let us know in the comments, along with any thoughts or ideas you might have from all this. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.